Hello, and welcome to another episode of Your Right to Know, brought to you by the Fitchburg Republican City Committee. And here we are in the Workers Credit Union studios here at FATV. Tonight we are going to be to discuss the post-midterm election wrap-ups, and with us we have panelists tonight. Well, first of all, my co-host Mary Lotz, and our panelists tonight are Tom Swenson, Aaron Packard, and Lorraine Rudd. Can everybody just introduce yourselves to our audience, starting with Aaron?
Me first. Hey, how are you, everybody? Thank you for having me on this little panel. My name is Aaron Packard. I am now your former candidate for state rep, but it was a great run. I learned a lot from it, so thank you for having me.
Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom Swenson. This is my first year being active with the Fitchburg Republican City Committee, and I got to volunteer for Dean Tran's campaign and also gathered signatures for question 4. So it was very rewarding experience.
And Lorraine?
Hi, Lorraine Rudd from Lunenburg, longtime resident, member of the Lunenburg Republican Town Committee. This is my first time on camera, so bear with me. Also a big volunteer for any of the campaigns. Aaron, I helped. Dean, anything I could do to help collect signatures, I was happy to do, and it was very, very educational. Thank you.
All right. So, a question for all panelists, and we're gonna get to you one at a time. Were you glued to the TV awaiting the results of the local elections on Tuesday night? Go ahead, Lorraine.
I was working the polls. I was there till 10, so I didn't see anything till the next day.
Tom?
I was not. I was actually glued to my cell phone at City Hall, waiting for results.
And Aaron?
I was not glued to the TV because of the channel it was on, so I was kind of skeptical. But I was with the Dean party and up in Lowell, and we were all anxiously awaiting results.
And following up, going into Tuesday night, did you have high hopes for the GOP nationwide and for our local and state candidates?
Sure did. I mean, what's the expression? Heat or eat? Yeah. How did they miss that?
That's a very good point.
That's
a very good point,
and
Lorraine.
it didn't resonate at all.
No, it didn't. It was covered up. Media didn't touch it.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, I had very high hopes, given the train wreck that's the current administration. Absolutely.
Aaron?
Yeah, I did have high hopes and personal positivity going into it, and you know, I was very well aware, and I had mentioned in the local paper that I had, you know, full alignment and was looking forward to working with everybody. Excuse me, both for statewide and nationally, obviously, definitely high hopes to try to bring down the corruption.
Mm.
And where were you exactly, and what sense did you get on how the GOP was doing and our candidates were doing as the evening progressed?
It started to sink.
Yeah.
By midnight, I just said, I can't take it, and I went to bed.
And that's roughly about the time I went to bed as well. Yeah, go ahead.
When I saw Fetterman was winning,
Yeah.
that's when I knew we were in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, if somebody with that cognitive
Limited
impairment,
impairment.
you know, major impairment, you know. But then again, look who they voted for president. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, like I said, I was with the Dean District 3, the Congressional District 3 candidates, Ken Hoyt and myself and Carla Miller. We were all, you know, just kind of uneasy to start with, waiting for numbers, you know, and I got a text from a reporter not too long after 8 o'clock asking me to talk about, you know, the results, and I was like, well, I didn't answer because I hadn't even gotten results yet, so something was kind of up. I wasn't not too comfortable after it all got started.
Interesting, Tom. You were our sort of roving reporter at City Hall,
Yes.
waiting for the results to come in. And, you know, we told you that they would probably start coming in 8:30, 8:45-ish.
Yeah.
You were waiting patiently with your cell phone, ready to report to various people in headquarters. When the results weren't coming in and you're standing at City Hall, I'm assuming you were with other candidate representative also.
I was all by myself.
You were all by yourself?
I was all by
Bless
myself.
you.
And did you start getting a sense that something was going wrong? Or
Not really at City Hall.
Okay.
It was more or less what I was seeing on my cell phone.
Okay.
On the national level, I kept bouncing between 2 or 3 different news sites, and I was just watching the returns come in, especially for some of the the big Senate races on the eastern side of the country, and it wasn't looking good.
So, were there any specific issues that the Republican candidates were running on that were important to you, but it just didn't seem to resonate with Massachusetts voters or voters nationally?
Well, if you think about all their issues, which were great, all the kitchen table issues, health choice, freedoms, just all your freedoms, all your choices, totally gaslighted by the media. It never got out to the public. So then I asked, how do you reach the public? How do you poll? How do you know how you're doing? How do you get them to understand where great candidates are coming from? It was very difficult.
It seemed almost like very similar to what happened in the 2020 election, where the media stifled anything that was negative. There were reports. I mean, there were people who were blowing the whistle in regards to Maura Healey, in regards to her using her influence as an attorney general to procure or solicit, favors from female state police.
Yeah.
That just fell flat.
Almost
the media
like
didn't pick
we
it
could
up.
almost make it akin to the Hunter
The
Biden
Hunter
laptop.
Biden- the Hunter
that was
Biden
just
laptop.
swept.
Totally uninterested.
Yeah, all these
Yeah.
major red flags
Right.
from the
Yeah.
other
Red
side
flags,
And what is- and
exactly.
what
were
is a red-
presented, but nothing was done about it.
Right,
And
and
just-
what it's a red flag of is it's not so much who cares about her personal life. What's a red flag of is influence peddling and corruption at the
It affects everybody.
the
Right.
most profound level in our state.
Right.
But it was allowed to go
Right.
just unrecognized.
Right.
And then, in addition to that, you also had issues that really aren't issues in Massachusetts. Abortion is not going to be an issue here in Massachusetts, no matter who's going to be governor, who's going to be the attorney general. It's written into our laws. That's it.
Yeah.
Unless we're going to revamp the entire legislature, that isn't going to happen. But yet, when you watch the debates, the dog whistles came
whistles.
out.
Right.
They want to restrict your abortion rights.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I wrangled into that in my debate. Instead of just saying, hey, the law is the law, it's codified, so my personal opinion doesn't matter here in this state. But no, I speak the truth because I want to know the truth just as much as everybody else. So, I'm pro-life.
Well,
but you can be free to choose whatever the heck you want to do. It's just, it's not on my dime. I'm sorry.
But you also, you want people to know at their core when they go to the polls who you are, what you stand for. You don't want things hidden and then people will say, oh, I didn't know that he was that way.
Yep.
You want people to know what your value system is and what it's based on. On any issue, not just abortion, but on any number of issues. And the thing that just surprises me so much is that the heat or eat, these kitchen table issues, and we could go right down the line. The heat or eat is the cost of oil and fuel. We're not pumping our own. We've got many stores that God gave us in our underground, and we can't touch it because of the environmentalist. We've got rising cost of absolutely everything in the stores. I went to the market today to get my regular weekly groceries. I couldn't even buy a half a gallon of whole milk. They had no whole milk, no half gallon of whole milk.
Wow.
I don't want a gallon of milk. It will go bad before I will use it up.
Right.
I couldn't even buy a quart of milk.
The economy is terrible.
I went to the cat food section, and the big sign says, supplies are limited, unavailable. This was aisle after aisle after aisle. Things just weren't there. Don't people see this? But tell me if you think this is a problem. That our leaders, our current leaders in Washington, Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, our local representatives, in other words, our U.S. representatives in Congress, and our state representatives, our state senator and state representative, were able to wash their hands of any of these issues.
Right.
Does anybody see that as a problem, and
Huge.
why? We
Oh,
can blame it on the
absolutely.
press.
Absolutely.
But don't people have brains working at all?
So the press is difficult when you're talking about the younger adults. When I saw them voting during the primary, they would all pull a Democrat ballot because they like what they think is warm and fuzzy or feel good. I don't know. They don't get it. They don't
Student
know.
loans, payoff of student loans.
They will not
perhaps.
understand it until they just don't have any more money.
Yeah, little dangling carrots of
Right.
immediate gratification, and that's what a lot of our country
know
has
how to
come
reach
to
them.
is impulsive, but I want immediate gratification, take care of this problem now, instead of thinking long term. Example is little breadcrumbs, a little treat, putting a Band-Aid over something that can be solved better. Local, up in Lunenburg, a couple of legislators made their appearance up there to present a very nice check to the senior center, and I'm happy for the seniors that they get that money for a backyard facility, instead of saving that money because of the heating crisis we are going to be experiencing this week.
They're going to be moving
winter.
into that senior center this
Yeah.
winter.
Yeah.
A few of them, I can see it.
And there's talk of a diesel shortage. Would you realize what that's going to do to the economy? Everything that moves on the highway, freight, ships, trains,
Locomotives,
it all run on diesel. All right? Diesel supply dries up. This country comes to a screeching halt. And, you're talking apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Fighting in the
100%
streets
right.
and all of that when everything is not available, the basics of life.
Look at what happened, and it's a microcosm of what you're talking about. But look what happened when Market Basket went on strike. Literally within 3 days, stores were just basically closed.
Yeah.
They had nothing on the shelves. No chicken, no eggs, no meat. Even the dry foods and the canned goods were getting scarce.
Yeah.
And so what did people do? They went to a different chain, Hannaford or something like that, and they started buying them out because they weren't used to having such a supply demand, and so they started to get low, and they started running out of things as well. Now, if it happens throughout the region, you're right. Stores really only have 3 days worth of food. That's it. And you can say, well, they have like a warehouse. Market Basket has warehouses up in Tewksbury and whatnot, but even their supplies are limited as well.
I think that's something the pandemic, actually, I hate to get off topic, but the pandemic did teach us. At one time, every hospital, building, organization, factory had large warehouses, and they had warehouses stocked full of supplies and backup equipment. And then with the pandemic, all of a sudden, because people felt that the trains, the planes, the trucks were always running and was always in good supply. With the pandemic happened and everything came to a screeching halt, all of a sudden the warehouses emptied out almost overnight, within a couple of days. Hospital warehouses emptied out. And they didn't have these huge warehouses. They have small little closet warehouses because it cost a lot to heat.
And those warehouse materials don't go to just one location. They have to distribute it out to everywhere.
Yeah.
So it will be depleted in a heartbeat.
And all of this was preventable. All the
Absolutely,
shortages,
yes.
the diesel nonsense,
2 years ago, this country was energy independent. We were an oil exporter.
right?
Yes.
Right.
And now we've got our president begging the Saudis.
And working with Ukraine and Russia to try to get oil, and working with Venezuela,
Venezuela.
to try to get oil.
Well,
Why?
Oil
We have
is
it's a natural resource.
It's a very viable natural resource. It replenishes itself 4 times faster than you can use it. And in this country alone, we have more than enough oil to last past 4 generations. So it is controlled.
But don't forget, Maura Healey stopped 2 pipelines from coming into the
And
state.
was proud of it.
And,
Proud
and
of
that,
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
so-
that was a pin she wore on her chest, and the GOP actually ran commercials about that because
when people wake up and see their faulty decision,
Exactly.
Will they, so, all right, we're calling it a faulty decision. Will they wake up and rue the day and impeach her? No.
No.
Because they still will not bring it back.
No.
So how do we win? So let me just throw out, Lorraine and I were speaking of this the other day. In Massachusetts, as is true also in the United States, the breakdown between Republicans, Democrats is somewhere in the 10 to 13% Republicans, 30 to 35% Democrats, and the rest are unenrolled. So we all know that in every election, political parties look at that large pool of unenrolled voters because that's who they hope will are swayable. Oftentimes they're not linked to a party, they're linked more to a candidate or to issues. So they're flexible in their voting pattern. All right. When by history, we've oftentimes seen that our candidates, Republican candidates who will always lose almost 30 to 35 to 55 to 60%. That's pretty consistent in all of our elections. And yet through all of the hard work, through all of we heard people were changing political parties by the tens of thousands. Now, of course, these are nationwide figures. We hear that there's going to be a red tide, that there's definitely going to be a groundswell, a tsunami, a wave. People were outraged by all of these things. Were we too close for it? Because it never materialized. And actually, Aaron, you should be proud of yourself because your statistics were, 40 to 60%. You did better, than the usual statewide.
Yeah, it was just about 36% to 40%. So a rough 60-40 is the way it goes.
Yeah.
That's actually
That's a success
that's
in
pretty
this state.
successful in this state.
First time outsider, I learned the ropes every step of the way. So I'm regrouping and rethinking. However, sometimes I think with human beings, we're creatures of emotion instead of creatures of logic. It was a quote I read. I can't remember who said it, but it's pretty true. And even the logical candidates who try to throw out the facts, like so many did this midterm cycle, not just here in Massachusetts, but across the United States, people, well, yeah, you make a good point, but this is my Valentine because I love him. That's why he's getting. That's how the people treat their vote.
Well, you're 100% right. I mean, when you watch any debate, no matter what debate, whether it's national, local, statewide, the logic came out in the Republican
spot
on facts. But it seems like the general public do not want facts. They do not want truth. They want a soft, fluffy pillow
Cater to
that
my
they can
immediate need.
sit on in order to be able to say, I'm taken care of now.
Right.
You mentioned a word earlier, dog whistle. The media and the left have turned the name Trump into a dog whistle, and it initiates fear. And when you go into fear mode, you're not thinking logically. You can't. You just want to be. You just want to be told it's going to be all right. They should have been listening to the Republican candidates who could have made it all right. But
So
they
then
didn't.
tell me, because Trump's name, we have to mention Trump. He has been a big influence. And there are many people in some of these primaries that we've seen through this year. People have said he's the kingmaker. Trump is still the kingmaker. By and large, the Trump-sponsored or supported candidates were winning in all of these different primaries. And yet now, what happened?
I think he was the kingmaker for the Republican base, or a good portion of the Republican base. But as far as independents, those people that we're trying to convert.
The independents aren't going to be swayed by who is kingmaker or devil worshiper. I'm saying far extreme right or left. The independents, having been a former independent myself up until last year, it's very media bias driven because we want to see who's going to be the best candidate for the overall solutions. However, no matter what media platform you're on, whether it's over the internet or on the television, it really was very biased information.
What happened with the polls? We were you turn on your TV The polls talked about a red wave, the tsunami even. I worked the polls. I worked Ward 3. I didn't get out of the polls till midnight. We had, I have the numbers here, Ward 3 had and a whole, side A and side B, we had almost over 50% voter turnout. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
That's better than what we get nationally.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So we had a very high voter turnout, and my understanding as I looked at the other wards, they also had in Fitchburg. I mean, you know, we had 31.5, 42.9, 39, 33, 47. We had all the wards had high voter turnout. So it was, I believe it was not just a red wave, it was a blue wave also.
Right.
But how could the polls have been so wrong? Or did the polls, being correct, bring out that tidal wave of blue votes to counteract because they got scared?
I think, go ahead, Tom.
You know, the last few years, polling has been off on both sides.
Skewed, yeah.
You know, I mean,
So you think pollsters really need to go back to
Well,
grad school and learn?
they are
asking
very.
questions?
I feel they're very much trying to pander to our base. Republicans, hey, these are our polls. Democrats are doing the same with the Democrat polls, and the independent unenrolleds are going. I really don't know what to believe.
I also think it was the unions too. To be quite
The unions
honest.
had a big.
The
tug.
unions did have it because I mean, I know people that not by choice are in the teachers union, and as soon as they got into work, they got asked questions: Who did you vote for? What
That's
you vote?
illegal. Don't they understand that?
Do you think they care?
They don't care. Yeah.
They don't care.
What are
And
laws?
so, like, what did you vote on question 1? What did you vote on question 2? You know, because question 1 was very important to the teachers union because I mean they say
it's
that
money.
They
They're
say
looking-
that's money going to the schools.
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
horse. You know what?
All right, so let's make that very clear to our viewers, because I know there's a lot of viewers who absolutely bought the revenue gotten gains from question 1 is going to go right to education.
The millionaire sticker.
And there
tagged
is
everybody.
absolutely, it is illegal to earmark any tax money for any one thing.
Right.
They can say it,
It's in the
but there's
Constitution
no
of the
such
state.
thing as a locked box for anybody's pet peeve.
was
That
such a-
money will go across the board and will be spent any way they want
Right.
to projects.
General funds. It was
Yep.
deception the way the
Yes.
question was written.
And I thought for sure question 4 would go down in a
Yeah,
fiery
over
blaze.
100,000 signatures to get it on the ballot. That's quite an accomplishment, and it failed miserably.
And we were all of us were part and
Elected
parcel of
this
Involved.
summer.
Yeah.
getting
We were all
signatures. And Tom, you even went to Cabela's and you faced off
Oh,
on
yeah,
some really hostile, angry forces that
Yeah,
were at Cabela's.
absolutely, absolutely. I
But
mean-
it was a nonpartisan, or you could call it a bipartisan issue.
Yeah,
There
and
were-
a lot of different people signed it because of the fact that our legislature took away the people's right to vote on it in the first
Yeah.
place.
Right.
They went against Governor Baker and passed it anyway,
Right.
But then
taking away
you
our
had,
rights.
You had some people that were actually causing violence while people were trying
Yeah.
to,
Civil rights violations across the board.
Right. I mean, even in Leominster, we had people who were accosted.
Lorraine, you were.
Yep.
Right at Market Basket.
Right at Market
Yeah.
Basket.
Police
Well,
had to come.
And
Yep.
Hannaford,
Right.
there was an experience at Hannaford.
Yeah.
and I mean, it's
And
just
Lunenburg.
it's just the hatred of the left crowd.
We even had state a state senator who was accosting
Yeah,
people.
involved
Yeah.
in the harassment.
Yeah, I didn't run into him, but I ran into a few of his cohorts at Cabela's.
And they were very angry and hostile forces.
Yeah, and extremely aggressive in trying
Yes.
to interfere with what we were doing.
Which was an American process. This is
A
within our laws.
democratic process.
Right.
Hello.
They have every opportunity to set up their own table. They wouldn't do it. They weren't there to shop. They were there to harass.
Yep.
And we felt it. But we stuck with it. Got 100,000 signatures.
So the question now becomes, is the GOP conservative movement dead? Where do we go from here?
How
do we start changing the message? Is it a message?
I don't think so. I mean, let's take a look at Florida, okay? I mean, Rubio and DeSantis did great. In fact, they even turned Miami-Dade County red.
That's right.
And that's no small feat.
No, it's not.
Okay?
I know New York had some, in Long Island, had, what, 3 seats?
Flips.
House seats.
Flip.
Yeah, House seats.
U.S. House
Yeah.
of Representatives.
Even though he ultimately lost, the governorship was pretty close.
Lee Zeldin.
Lee
So
Zeldin
the
versus
GOP
Kathy
just
Hochul.
needs to rethink their way out of grand old party because they're dragging that history of tight-necked, staunchy
Yes.
elitists
Right.
who we thought were initially, and now, of course, it's socialist versus patriotism.
Right.
And that's the way, a lot of people are starting to look at it. But getting out of that grand old, just like a lot of the old Democrats are lost in the Kennedy era.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on the Kennedy era comment, but somebody else also said something about the kids that were coming in and just pulling Democratic slips because, I mean, I think it's coming to fruition that the socialists who took over in the 60s and 70s in the schools, we're now seeing their work coming to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now it's more of a gimme generation.
Yeah.
It's not what can that's
can you
not
do
what
for
you
your
can do
country?
for your country. That's what your country
Well,
can do for you.
And I mean, we grew up with a merit-based system.
Right.
And you earned, you worked, because that's what the American dream was all about. And now we know that that's no longer true. And one of the things that you were saying is about the staunchy old party. That's why we like to say that we stand for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people.
Amen.
And as we wind down tonight, believe it or not, our 30 minutes is over. I'd like to thank our panelists for being with us tonight. You all had very instrumental parts that you played in the campaign at many different levels. And I thank you for your patriotism. I thank you, Aaron, for taking up the mantle and going forward with this. And just doing everything we do. And as we leave you tonight, we thank you for watching Your Right to Know. And remember that your local city or town Republican committee is your only grassroots organization that supports and holds dear your constitutional rights of liberty and your pursuit of happiness. We believe everyone should consider looking at the GOP because we do stand for growth, opportunity, and prosperity for all people. And despite what you hear, we always stand for freedom. Thank you and good night.
America, we stand for freedom. So let us all use values that preserves our rights and goes forth in power and might that reflects our values and preserves our rights and goes forth in power and might.